I found out I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving by accident. Through a picture someone else posted. There they were, my son, his wife, their friends, even her parents, all sitting around that long table in his beautiful new house. The table was full. Turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, even my old gravy boat sitting right in the center, and not a single chair for me. At first, I thought maybe I missed a call. Maybe there was some misunderstanding. I checked my phone again and again, scrolling through messages, checking missed calls, even my email. Though my son never really writes emails, but there was nothing, not a word. Just that photo, my whole family, smiling under warm lights, everyone looking like they belonged. I sat there at my kitchen table staring at the picture until my coffee went cold. The sound of the clock on the wall was all I could hear, ticking softly. Like it was reminding me that time keeps moving, whether you're included or not. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, trying to understand how I'd gone from being the woman who cooked every Thanksgiving for 30 years to the woman no one thought to invite. My son, Daniel, used to call me every day when he was younger. We'd talk about the smallest things, what he had for lunch, how his baseball practice went, what grade he got on a test. When his dad passed away, it was just the two of us. We leaned on each other, cooked together, even laughed again after months of silence. I remember thinking, as long as we have each other, we'll be okay. I really believed that. But then time changes things. He went off to college, met his wife, and suddenly, calls turned into texts. Texts turned into short replies. And before I knew it, I was hearing about his life from Facebook more than from him. I told myself it was normal. Kids grow up, they get busy, they start their own lives. I didn't want to be the kind of mother who clings or guilt trips. I thought giving him space meant I was doing the right thing. But that picture, that Thanksgiving table, it told me maybe I gave too much space. I still remember the last Thanksgiving we spent together. It was in my old house, the one with the small living room that always smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey. I had decorated the table with those same old napkin rings shaped like leaves. Daniel had brought his girlfriend then, now his wife, Emily. She was polite but quiet. I tried my best to make her comfortable. Asked about her family, her job, her favorite foods. She smiled but didn't say much. That night, when everyone left, I heard Daniel and Emily talking on the porch. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard her say, "Your mom's nice, but she's a bit much." Those words stuck with me. A bit much. I didn't know what that meant. Too loving? Too talkative? Too motherly? I guess I'll never really know. After that, things slowly changed. Daniel stopped coming by as often. He started saying things like, "We'll try next weekend," or "Maybe next time, Mom." And next time rarely came. When I saw that Thanksgiving photo, all those memories came rushing back. The quiet dinners, the missed birthdays, the unanswered calls. It wasn't just about the dinner. It was about what it represented. It was the proof that somewhere along the way, I'd become someone they didn't think about anymore. That night, I turned off my phone and just sat in silence. I could hear the wind outside and the hum of the refrigerator. I thought about driving over there, knocking on the door, just to see their faces when they saw me. But I didn't. Not because I was afraid of making a scene, but because deep down, I knew if they had wanted me there, they would have asked. I ended up heating some leftover soup. I sat on the couch with my bowl and watched one of those old holiday movies I used to love. The kind where families argue a little, but always make up before the credits roll. I smiled at the irony. Life isn't like those movies. Sometimes the apology never comes. Sometimes you just learn to live with the silence. I didn't tell anyone about what happened. Not my sister, not my neighbor, no one. It felt too embarrassing. Like admitting I'd failed at something I thought came naturally. Being a mother. I kept replaying moments in my head, wondering if I said something wrong, if I ever made him feel small, if maybe I loved him in a way that became too heavy to carry. A few days later, he finally called. It was the following Monday. His voice sounded cheerful, casual, like nothing had happened. "Hey, Mom," he said. "How was your Thanksgiving?" I froze for a second. I could have lied. I could have said it was fine, that I had friends over or went to my sister's. But I didn't. I said, "Quiet." He paused and then said, "Yeah, ours was nice. Emily's parents came up. It was kind of last minute, you know. Last minute." That's what he said. Last minute. Yet the decorations in the photo told another story. Matching plates, a full spread, printed place cards. "You don't do all that last minute." But I didn't argue. I just said, "That's nice, honey. I'm glad you had a good time." When we hung up, I sat there staring at the phone again. My hands were shaking a little. I realized I wasn't even angry. I was just tired. Tired of pretending everything was fine. Tired of being left out but still trying to understand why. That night, I wrote him a letter. Not an angry one. Not guilt-tripping. Just honest. I told him how I missed him. How I missed being part of his life. I told him I wasn't looking for grand gestures or fancy dinners. I just wanted to be there, to feel like family. I put the letter in an envelope, sealed it, and left it on the kitchen counter for a few days. Every morning I'd pick it up, read it again, and set it back down. Part of me wanted to mail it. Another part of me thought, if he wanted to know how I felt, he'd ask. After a week, I tore it up and threw it away. Because maybe that's what motherhood becomes after a while. A quiet sort of waiting. You wait for the call, for the visit, for the chance to matter again. The Sunday after Thanksgiving, I went to church like always. Mrs. Walker, the lady who sits behind me, asked, "Did your son come visit this year?" I smiled and said, "Oh, he was busy." It was easier than explaining the truth. The lie rolled off my tongue so easily it almost scared me. After the service, I came home and made myself a sandwich. I turned on the radio, hoping the music would fill the house a little. But it didn't. The quiet still felt heavy. I looked at the photo again on my phone. I had told myself I wouldn't, but I did. I zoomed in, studying every face, every detail. There was Daniel at the head of the table carving the turkey. He looked happy. Emily was beside him, laughing with her parents. Her mother was using my gravy boat, the one Daniel took when he moved out. Said it reminded him of home. I guess it reminded him enough to use it, just not enough to invite the person it belonged to. I thought about how I used to set that same table years ago. The way Daniel would sneak bits of turkey before dinner, or how his dad would always pretend to test the mashed potatoes. It was our thing. It was family. And now, looking at that photo, it felt like I was the ghost in someone else's story. I went into the kitchen and opened the drawer where I keep my recipes. Old cards, yellowed with time, all written in my handwriting. I ran my finger over one that said, "Daniel's favorite sweet potato casserole." The ink was smudged near the corner where he'd once spilled water as a boy. I smiled a little, remembering his messy grin, his "Sorry, Mom." That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up, made some tea, and sat by the window. The street was quiet, the world still. I thought about calling him again, maybe just to say hi. But then I remembered that moment on the phone, his cheerful, distant voice, and I stopped myself. The next morning, I decided to bake. Not for anyone, just for me. It had been a long time since I baked a pie. As I rolled the dough, I felt something loosen in my chest. Baking had always been how I showed love. Every stir, every sprinkle of sugar. It meant something. Maybe it still could. When the pie was done, I sat at the table, a slice on my plate, and thought about the kind of mother I'd been. I wasn't perfect. I made mistakes like anyone. Maybe I hovered too much when he was young. Maybe I called too often. But everything I did came from love. I don't think children really understand that until they have kids of their own. Later that afternoon, I got a text. It was from Daniel. Just one line. "Hey, Mom, thinking of you. Hope you're good." I stared at it for a while. My first instinct was to write back immediately, to tell him I missed him, that I wished I'd been there, that it hurt, but I didn't. I just replied, "I'm good, sweetheart. Thank you." And I was, in a way. Not happy, not content, but okay. I had learned that sometimes peace isn't about fixing things. It's about accepting them. Still, that photo stayed in my phone. I didn't delete it. Maybe because a part of me hoped that one day, when I looked at it again, it would hurt a little less. It had been about 2 weeks since Thanksgiving. The leftovers in my fridge were long gone. And so was most of the ache that had kept me awake those first few nights. But every now and then it came back. That dull, heavy feeling in my chest when I passed by his old room or saw something that reminded me of him. His room still looks almost the same as the day he moved out. The baseball trophies are still lined up on the shelf, the posters a little faded, the old desk with his initials carved on the side. I don't go in there much, but sometimes, when I'm dusting, I stand in the doorway and just look. It's funny how a room can hold time still. It's like he's still a boy there. Messy, bright-eyed, full of dreams. I remember one year he made me breakfast in bed for Thanksgiving morning. He was maybe 10. The toast was burned. The eggs were too runny. But I ate every bite like it was the best meal I'd ever had. He kept watching me, waiting for me to smile. And when I did, he looked so proud. That memory hit me out of nowhere the other night while I was washing dishes. I had to stop and lean on the counter because it felt like my heart was splitting open all over again. I guess that's what love does to you when it's one-sided. It finds small ways to ache. Around mid-December, Daniel called again. That was rare. Usually I'd be the one to check in. I answered right away. "Hey, honey," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Hey, Mom," he said, his voice a little rushed. "How have you been?" "I've been fine," I lied. "Keeping busy, you know. Church, a little baking." "Yeah," he said, distracted. I could hear voices in the background. Probably Emily's family again. Then he said, "So we're hosting Christmas this year, too. Just wanted to let you know." My stomach dropped a little, but I kept my tone light. "That's wonderful. You'll have a full house again." "Yeah," he said. "It's just gonna be small, though. You know, immediate family. Immediate family." The words hung in the air like smoke. I swallowed hard and said, "Of course." We talked for a few more minutes about small things. The weather, work, nothing real. Then he said, "I'll call you after the holidays, okay?" And before I could say much else, he was gone. When the call ended, I sat there in the quiet again, the phone still in my hand. I think that was the first time I really felt invisible, like I'd been quietly erased from his definition of family. That night, I couldn't help but replay our old Christmases in my head. How Daniel used to wake up before dawn, tugging at my arm, begging to open presents. His dad would groan, pretending to be annoyed, and I'd make cocoa while they both sat on the floor, tearing wrapping paper. We didn't have much back then, but we had laughter, and that was enough. Now, all I had was a phone that didn't ring as often, and memories that came uninvited. A week later, my neighbor, Jean, dropped by with a tin of cookies. "You spending Christmas with your boy this year?" she asked. I smiled and said, "Oh, they're busy this year. I'll probably just stay in." Jean frowned. "You should come over to my place then. We're having the grandkids over. It'll be loud and messy, but you'll have company." I thanked her, but I said no. I didn't want to sit at someone else's table pretending it filled the same hole. There's a kind of loneliness that even kindness can't quite touch. On Christmas morning, I woke up early anyway. Out of habit, I made pancakes and coffee just like I used to. The house smelled warm, like cinnamon and butter. I turned on the old radio in the kitchen. They were playing carols, the kind I used to hum while cooking dinner. I stood there, spatula in hand, and laughed to myself. "Look at you," I said out loud, still keeping traditions for one. After breakfast, I decided to go for a walk. The neighborhood was quiet except for a few kids riding new bikes and people carrying gifts into houses. When I reached the corner, I saw a family standing outside, posing for pictures in matching sweaters. The dad was holding the camera, the mom fixing her daughter's hat. I stopped for a moment, watching them laugh together, not out of jealousy, just longing. That deep, old kind of longing that sits right behind your ribs. When I got back home, there was a small box on my porch. No name on it, just a little note that said, "For you." Inside was a Christmas ornament, a simple glass heart, the kind you find at craft fairs. No message, no card. I never found out who left it, but I hung it on my tree anyway. Maybe it was Jean, maybe it was nobody I knew. But that little act, it meant something. It reminded me that love can still find you, even when family doesn't. That evening, I sat by the fire with a blanket and some cocoa. I scrolled through my phone again. More photos, more smiling faces. Daniel and Emily, standing in front of their tree, arms around each other. Emily's parents beside them. And right in the corner, I noticed something small. On their mantle, next to the stockings, was a framed photo of Daniel as a boy, and me beside him. It stopped me cold. I stared at that tiny detail for a long time. Maybe he didn't erase me completely. Maybe I still lived somewhere in his home, even if I wasn't invited there anymore. That night, I didn't cry. For the first time in weeks, I just smiled. A small, quiet smile. Maybe that's what healing starts as. Not a big moment, not an apology, but a small reminder that you still exist in someone's memory. After Christmas came and went, January rolled in like a sigh. The tree came down, the lights went back into their box, and the days felt quiet again. Too quiet sometimes, the kind of quiet that echoes. I spent most of the first week of the year cleaning. Not because it needed it, but because it kept me moving. I dusted shelves that hadn't seen a cloth in months, sorted drawers full of old letters, and found things I'd forgotten existed. Little mementos that used to mean something. A clay turkey Daniel made in second grade, the one with the lopsided beak and paint smudged all over it. I held it in my hand and ran my thumb along the edge. And for a second, I swear, I could hear his little laugh again. That goofy, carefree sound only kids can make. It's strange how the heart works. It can be cracked, bruised, disappointed beyond words. And yet, it still remembers the laughter before the pain one afternoon. I was out front trimming the dead branches off the rose bushes when a car pulled into the driveway. I squinted through the sunlight, and my breath caught. It was Daniel. He got out slowly, hands in his pockets, looking unsure. I hadn't seen him since before Thanksgiving. I wiped my hands on my jeans and forced a smile. "Well, look who it is." "Hey, Mom," he said, giving a small nod. His eyes flicked to the bushes, then back to me. "Roses still hanging in there?" "Barely," I said. "But they always come back." He gave a weak smile, then said, "Can we talk?" I nodded and led him inside. The house suddenly felt too clean, too quiet. I motioned toward the couch, and he sat, looking down at his hands. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he said, "I've been meaning to stop by. Just, things got busy. I didn't say anything. I just waited." He sighed. "Look, I know it probably looked bad, you not being at Thanksgiving, but it wasn't like that. Emily's parents were in town, and we didn't have much space. It was Daniel," I said softly, cutting him off. "You don't have to explain." "I saw the pictures. Looked like a lovely table. Full house." He flinched a little. "Yeah, it was nice. But it wasn't the same, wasn't it?" I asked quietly. "You had everyone there." He ran a hand through his hair. "Mom, don't do that." I looked at him. My grown son, sitting there like a boy caught doing something wrong. And in that moment, I didn't feel angry. "Just tired. I'm not doing anything," I said. "I just want you to know. I understand. People grow up. They start new traditions. I get it." He looked up then, his eyes softening. "That's not what I wanted," he said. You know that, right? I shrugged. Intentions don't always matter as much as actions, sweetheart. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. Emily thought it might be awkward. She wanted her family to have space. I nodded. And she was right to think that. It's her home too. I don't hold it against her. He looked down again, guilt shadowing his face. I should have called. I should have said something. I smiled gently. You're here now. That's something. We sat in silence for a bit after that. I made coffee. Muscle memory, really. And brought him a cup just the way he liked it. 2 sugars, splash of cream. He held it in both hands and looked around the room, like he was seeing it for the first time in years. You haven't changed a thing, he said. Didn't see the point, I replied. Feels like if I change too much, I might lose what's left of the past. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that. For the next hour, we talked about small things. His work, the weather, the new coffee shop in town. Nothing deep, but it was enough. It felt like standing on a frozen lake and hearing the first cracks of thaw. When he finally stood to leave, he hesitated at the door. Mom, he said quietly. I don't want things to be like this. I smiled. That same tired smile I'd been wearing for months. Neither do I, honey. But time has a way of fixing what people can't. He nodded, eyes wet but not crying. Then he hugged me. Quick, tight, and gone too soon. When the door closed, I stood there for a long time. Coffee mug still in my hand. The air felt lighter somehow, but it also hurt. Like a wound had been reopened. But maybe it needed to, so it could finally heal right. The next few weeks passed quietly again. I didn't expect much to change, but a small part of me, the stubborn, motherly part, held on to hope. Then in early February, I got a card in the mail. No return address, just my name written in Daniel's handwriting. Inside was a picture. One of us from years ago. He was maybe 5, sitting on my lap at the fair, cotton candy all over his face. And on the back, he'd written, "Thought this might make you smile. Love you, Mom." I did smile. I smiled through tears. That night, I placed that photo on my nightstand, and before I turned off the light, I whispered, "Love you too, son." It wasn't forgiveness yet. Not fully, but it was a start. The days started to feel a little softer after that. I joined a little quilting group at church. All older women like me, with stories stitched into every square they made. We laughed more than we sewed, really. But it felt good to belong somewhere again. Sometimes, when the conversation drifted to family, I'd listen quietly. Some of them talked about grandkids who lived far away, or children who never called. One woman said, "We give them roots and wings, but sometimes they forget to come back to the nest." We all nodded, each of us understanding more than words could say. That spring, the roses in my garden finally bloomed again, full, red, stubborn as ever. I was out there pruning them one afternoon when I heard a car door slam. I looked up. Daniel was walking up the path, holding a bouquet of grocery store flowers. "Hey, Mom," he said. "Brought you something." I smiled. "Well, aren't those pretty? What's the occasion?" He shrugged. "No occasion. Just wanted to see you." He handed me the flowers, and I noticed his hands were shaking just a little. "You been okay?" he asked. "I've been fine," I said. "How about you?" He nodded. "Better. Emily and we've been talking about how things went down. She feels bad, Mom." "She doesn't owe me that," I said softly. "Maybe not," he said. "But I do." I looked at him then, really looked. The boy I raised was still in there somewhere, under all the adult armor and pride. We didn't fix everything that day. We didn't hug it out or cry or make big promises. We just talked, slow, honest, careful, about small things, old memories, little regrets. And when he left that afternoon, he said something that made me stop in my tracks. He said, "Next Thanksgiving, I want you at my table." "Okay?" My throat tightened. "We'll see," I said softly, smiling through it. He grinned, that same crooked grin from when he was a boy. I mean it. When he drove away, I stood in the driveway watching the car disappear down the road. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and gold. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel left out of the world. I felt part of it again. Just a small, quiet part, but still there. Inside, I put the flowers in a vase and set them by the window. Then I whispered to no one in particular. Maybe next year will be different. The following year crept in quietly, the way years tend to when you've lived enough of them. You stop marking time by dates and holidays and start measuring it by the small things. How long the snow stayed, how early the sun rises, how fast the daffodils bloom. I didn't think much about Thanksgiving at first. I kept busy with my quilting group, helped at the church bake sale, and even joined the ladies' walking club on Wednesdays. Life had a rhythm again, not quite what it used to be. A little lonelier, a little slower, but steady, like an old song playing softly in the background. Then one afternoon in late October, I went to check the mail. Mixed in with the bills and catalogs was an envelope with Daniel's handwriting. My heart did a little stutter when I saw it. I took it inside and sat at the kitchen table before opening it, my hands trembling just a bit. Inside was a card. The front showed a watercolor of autumn leaves, and inside, in Daniel's neat print, were the words, "Mom, I hope you'll come this year. We'd love to have you. Thanksgiving won't feel right without you there. Love, Daniel and Emily." Below that, in a softer script, were a few words written by Emily herself. "We really mean it, Mom. Please say yes." I sat there for a long while just staring at that card. I traced my fingers over the words like they were fragile. Part of me wanted to believe it instantly, to feel that warm rush of belonging again. Another part, the cautious part, whispered, "Don't get your hopes up." But hope has always been stubborn in me. That night, I placed the card on the mantel beside the old family photo. The one from when Daniel was 10, missing 2 front teeth, holding the turkey leg up like a trophy. I smiled just looking at it. Maybe this year would be different. When Thanksgiving week came, I baked an apple pie the way I used to. The crust from scratch, the filling rich and spiced just right. I ironed a simple dress. The soft blue one Daniel had once said brought out my eyes. Then, on Thanksgiving morning, I wrapped the pie carefully, slipped into my coat, and drove to his house. It was about a 45-minute drive, long enough to think, but not long enough to overthink. The leaves had already fallen, leaving the trees bare and reaching. The sky was pale and heavy, like it might snow. When I pulled into his driveway, I saw the same big white house from last year's picture. Cars lined the curb. My chest tightened a little, but I took a deep breath and stepped out. Before I could even ring the bell, the door opened. And there was Daniel. He looked different, older somehow, but softer too. "Mom," he said, breaking into a smile. "You made it." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, holding up the pie. "Hope you saved some room." He laughed, that same boyish laugh I hadn't heard in too long, and hugged me, really hugged me. Inside, the house smelled like home. Roasted turkey, sage, cinnamon. I could hear laughter from the dining room. Emily came out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She looked nervous at first, but her face softened when she saw me. "Hi, Mom," she said. "I'm so glad you came," I smiled. "Thank you for having me." She hesitated, then stepped forward and hugged me too. It wasn't stiff or forced. It was real. And in that small gesture, a lot of old hurt melted quietly away. When we walked into the dining room, I froze for a second. The table was long and beautifully set. The same one from the photo. The same gravy boat right in the center. The one that used to be mine. But this time, there was a place card with my name, written neatly in front of one of the chairs. "Right there, Mom," Daniel said, pulling the chair out for me. "That's your spot." I don't know why that small act meant so much. Maybe because last year I didn't have a spot at all. Dinner was lovely. I didn't know how else to describe it. There was laughter, stories, even a few old family jokes I hadn't heard in years. Emily's parents were there too. Polite, warm, kind. No tension, no awkward glances. Just people eating, talking, sharing space. At one point, Daniel raised his glass and said, "I just want to say how grateful I am this year. For family, for second chances, and for my mom." Everyone clinked glasses, and I felt something inside me loosen. That tight knot of resentment I'd been carrying since the year before. After dinner, when the dishes were cleared and the conversation softened into that gentle afterglow of full bellies and warm hearts, I wandered into the living room. The fire was crackling. Photos lined the mantel. Daniel and Emily on their wedding day, their dog, vacations, and tucked between them was that same photo Daniel had mailed me. Him at 5 years old with cotton candy all over his face. I smiled through the tears that came without warning. Emily came and sat beside me. For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she said softly, "I owe you an apology, Mom." I turned to her. "You don't owe me anything, sweetheart." "I do," she said. "Last year was my idea. I thought it would be easier. I didn't realize how much it would hurt you. And I'm sorry." Her voice trembled a little. I reached out and took her hand. "You're young," I said. "You'll make mistakes. We all do. What matters is you learned from it. That's all I ever wanted." She smiled then. And it felt honest. Later that evening, as I was getting ready to leave, Daniel walked me out to my car. The night was cold, and our breaths fogged in the air. "Mom," he said quietly, "thank you for coming." "I should be thanking you," I said, "for inviting me." He looked down for a moment, then said, "I've been thinking a lot about Dad lately, about how I handled things after he passed. I wasn't there for you the way I should have been." My heart ached hearing that. "You were grieving, honey. We both were." "Still," he said, shaking his head, "you were always there for me, and I forgot that." I reached up and cupped his cheek the way I used to when he was little. "You didn't forget, sweetheart. You just got busy learning how to live. That's what growing up is. The important thing is, you came back." He smiled then, eyes wet. "Yeah, I guess I did." He hugged me again, longer this time, tighter, and I held on. When I finally got home that night, the house felt different somehow. Not bigger, not smaller, just lighter. I put the empty pie dish in the sink, changed into my robe, and sat in my chair by the window. Outside, a few snowflakes were beginning to fall. For a long time, I just watched them. Soft, silent, unhurried. You spend a lifetime raising a family, thinking love is something you give and never expect back. But sometimes, if you're patient enough, it finds its way back to you. Maybe not all at once, maybe not the way you imagined, but it does. That night, before going to bed, I whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, not just for my son, but for time itself, for the way it teaches, heals, humbles. And as I turned off the light, I thought about next Thanksgiving, not with dread this time, but with a small warm anticipation. Because sometimes forgiveness doesn't happen in grand gestures or dramatic apologies. It happens in small moments. A seat saved at a table, a hug at the door, a card in the mail. It happens when love remembers how to find its way home. And if you've ever felt forgotten, by family, by friends, by time itself, just know this: your place at the table still exists, even if it takes a while for others to notice it again. So hold on, be patient, love quietly, because one day someone will look for you. And when they do, make sure the light in your window is still on. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us tell more stories that remind people it's never too late to forgive, and it's never too late to come home.